This is the heaviest podcast. Let's fucking go!
Yo, what the fuck is up? It's the Heavyist podcast, weekly worship at the altar of motherfucking radness. This is going to be a fun, very cool episode. I'm without Gary for the first time in history. It's weird, but luckily we've got a fucking awesome guest that put out some awesome music, so I haven't got a lack of questions or things to ask him. If you're wondering where Gary is, he's in Japan at the moment with his good lady. I can only imagine he's, just spending all his money on the pant machines, buying like sort of nude anime dolls, those like really, really graphic, really small like figures.
Yeah.
That's probably what he's up to. He's probably off his tits on pants from vending machines.
He seems like the type.
He does.
Yeah.
We got Tony from the band Crippling Alcoholism today, and I'm very excited. Thank you for coming and hanging, Tony. This is going to be fun.
Thank you so much for having me. You're actually kind of a celebrity in the Castrati family household now because
Jesus Christ.
I showed you guys gave us you were the first people to give us a really nice, heartfelt, kind of articulate review when we put out the album, and so that was my bridge to like my normal family members. Because I was like, look, like people, because I never really talk about the kind of
British people understand it.
Yeah, and Americans are very infatuated with the British accent. We think of it as being very high IQ. Cultured and very refined, and so I was like, look at these British gentlemen reviewing my album with because I think a lot of my family, like, so they like, even my mom, for instance, like my mom grew up really poor, and so outsider art is seen as like reckless, right? It's like a waste of money.
It's like, well, that's not going to make you the most money possible.
Exactly.
Is it?
And it's actually almost morally kind of irresponsible. So I never really bring it up with her just because
like the dad on Everyone Hates Chris.
Exactly. Yeah. That's My mom would say, what is it? When money flies out the window, love walks out the door. And it's just she's dropping bars.
Yeah, she was dropping bars. I can see where you've got yours from.
I was like, all right, I'm gonna have to get a summer job, I guess. Jesus Christ. And but like that kind of intent, like, but when she heard your guys' review, she was like tearing up. It was great.
Oh
actually.
My God.
I owe you guys
That's
a lot
unreal.
for that. It really actually like helped me with my own relationship with my mom. I owe you guys.
Hell.
I should be paying you guys like a therapist, salary or whatever. $300 for an hour. Yeah.
Wow, that's fantastic, man. That's so cool. And I think that's just so lovely to hear because, everything we do is just like our hobby. This is thing we do out of passion. We don't talk about anything for a laugh. Like there's so many albums that come out every week and like we can't just cover everything. So we try and just talk about the stuff that we really, really like. And that's why we don't really talk about stuff that we don't like because there's no point unless it's incredibly funny. Unless like Emmure put out an album that's a proper 2 out of 10, like there's no point just shitting on music. But
yeah.
You know what I mean?
No, I appreciate that. Yeah,
this is cool, man. Thank you.
But yeah, no. What I was saying, I mean, you guys gave it a very heartfelt review, and it was very greatly appreciated. So yeah, thanks for patching things up with me and my twisted family. Just kidding.
Oh man. We owe you a lot. I mean, the amount of hours I've spent inside that padded room this year has been off the charts, mate. It's been an album that's just absolutely become one of those go-tos when I just don't know what to put on. it's a perfect jam for any time of the day. It's we'll get properly into the album in a bit, but yeah. So before we sort of dive into the music, whereabouts are you based, Tony?
So right now I live in Boston, Massachusetts,
Nice.
which if you're an American, that's a staple. Boston's a pretty major city, but
Yeah.
for the UK listeners, it's just right on the East Coast, Northeast. I grew
Well,
up in.
the funny thing, it's notorious to me. Boston is notorious to us, Massachusetts, because of from my friends, us growing up, we knew because of the Worcester Palladium, because of the
really?
Killswitch Engage DVD that they did there, and that was like a
no
legendary
shit.
DVD that we would always watch.
Yeah.
And like, so in our heads, like me and my friend group growing up, Boston, like Worcester Palladium is just the most metal place you can be. So anybody from Boston is the most metal person, just because of that Killswitch Engage DVD, basically.
That rule. We actually, this band did play at the Palladium. We played in their small room.
Amazing.
I don't know how good of a show it was because I don't think it was the right audience. We had a band there's a band called Omerta. I actually really like them. They're like they're almost like hyper pop meets metal meets like
cool.
like rap. But they hit us up to open for them. But a lot of the other bands were like these very like Slipknot kind of, it just wasn't the audience, and we went on first. With our and we have a whole like theatrical live set. It's like almost like
fantastic,
like a preacher sort of thing. And I could just tell
you come
people,
out.
Like,
what's your get up? What's your stage get up?
So at that time I was in my Hawaiian shirt phase, but now I do a bathrobe. Yes. I think my wife suggested that. She's like
a Tony Soprano feeding the ducks.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, and that's kind of my get up now. But the people at the Palladium were kind of like, what the fuck is this fucking pretentious art bullshit? We're the breakdowns. So it was it was not our vibe, but that's okay.
Nah. How early into the band was that? Was that like one of the first sort of handful of shows you played, or?
That was during the time we were recording this album. So we still had our old set.
Yeah.
I want to say it was like last summer, but I honestly forget.
I love that. I love going to a show like that, and I just love watching the people because I'm never annoyed. I'm just excited to just see other people's reactions when it's such a mixed feel like that.
It is.
That's fantastic.
It is funny to just. It's funny like the first couple times, but after a while, you're like, we really need to like play shows with our audience. This is. Spectacle can only go on long enough.
Yeah. I'll ask you more directly about that and like sort of shows and tours and things like that and plans a little bit later after we talk about the album. So yeah, you're from Boston. How long has the band actually been together, and how did you guys all sort of get together, and how did the fucking ridiculously awesome name get decided on?
Oh yeah. So this started as my like solo project.
Okay.
And I was in a couple of metal, and I was in a mathcore band. One of the bands it's called Needle Play. Not a band anymore. Oh yeah. I play guitar in that. That's how I met all these guys. And then Jonathan, who plays guitar in this band, he and I had a band called Nursing. It's like mathcore.
Oh shit. Yeah.
It's like really kind of like super grindy, kind of psyopus-y.
Yeah.
So we did that album, and we liked it a lot, but we were kind of thinking like we're just not into this technical shit anymore. It's a lot of work, and it's really not paying off.
Yeah.
Not economically. I just mean like emotionally. It's not. It's not the kind of vibe I'm going to. I don't have any kind of. I would listen back and I would think this is very technically impressive, and I know I spent a lot of work in it on all the sweeps and the tapping and the crazy alternate picking stuff that I was staying up till 3 a.m. every night doing. But it wasn't what I was feeling, right? It wasn't conveying anything. And I got very what's the term? Black pilled. I was like I was just very kind of depressed, and I threw out everything I was working on because I was like, this is masturbatory kind of bullshit. And I started the early drafts of this project, Crippling, which I got from the subreddit. There's a subreddit called Crippling Alcoholism that when I was an active alcoholic, I was in at all times. And it's very like, I didn't think I would ever be releasing stuff on this scale. So it was kind of a name I just picked because I was like, in the grindcore bands where they pick names that are,
oh yeah, it's just like abrasive as fuck,
necrotic anal wound or whatever, like something like that. So I was like, all right, this is just a very abrasive title, and it's true to my own experience. So I kind of thought like, and it just a lot of the characters I was using in my writing were kind of inspired for stuff I was reading on Reddit of people in active addiction and people who had really interesting lives and backgrounds and were sharing the cool thing about a subreddit like Crippling Alcoholism. It's a new subreddit now. I don't like the new one as much. They have different mods. They're not as explicit. It used to rule like circa like 2019 was when the people would just come out and they would be totally open, right? And if you know people in recovery, if you know people who are, or even like struggling with addiction, there's a lot of delusion. There's a lot of like lying to yourself, even in recovery meetings. Like they tell you that honesty is everything, but you can tell that people kind of just lie, or they have a hard time looking at themselves.
Right.
And the things that they've done. Whereas like with this subreddit, people would just be like, yeah, I am just the worst person and this is why. And you would read through and you'd be like, I've done some of those things. Like, and I feel like I'm the worst person too. And it's kind of, there's a catharsis in that. Right. So totally. It's almost like an homage to that.
Yeah. I mean, the honesty is like the best, honesty is what people sort of grab onto, and the sort of bravado, it's sort of the opposite of bravado, which people sort of find endearing, like being honest about your problems and self-deprecation. And that's why like all the best comedians aren't just telling people how brilliant they are, that they're incredibly honest.
Yeah, I mean, the best comedians are telling you about the worst parts of themselves, and the reason they get such a laugh is because you're like, holy shit, I think like that. I just am not like, I'm too scared to talk about it.
Yeah, I'm not articulate enough.
I can't articulate it in a way that's comedic or artistic in any way. And it's same with authors. Like a lot of authors that I gravitate towards are the ones who say all the intrusive thoughts out loud, and their characters are very like vibrant because they're so gutted. They're nice. So like transparent. You could see exactly all the fucked up thoughts that everybody has, right? I mean, it just most people, that's especially in today's social media, you're seeing like this diluted illusion of what people's lives are like, and when you meet them in person, they're so good at wearing these masks and veils, and they don't let you in on anything. And I think it kind of contributes to people's misery, right? Because everyone is thinking that everyone else is doing so great, because we're all so terrified of admitting just how miserable we are and how fucked up we are and selfish and narcissistic and like
big agree. I'm about to become a father in August, and
I'm congratulations.
Thank you very much, man. And I'm like, I mean, I got a little sister. She's like 19 now, but she was like in the sort of main school age when social media was sort of evolving into the thing it is now. And like, it just fucks people's brains up. It's like, it just creates the levels of anxiety that you get and things like that, like from the modern modern comparison and the mirrors that you're held up against that are just basically funhouse mirrors all the fucking time. Like they're never
Yeah.
they're never real.
Well, it's destroying your sense of self and of self-worth and your attention span. You know, a lot of the things that make life enjoyable, like the artistic experiences that make life kind of worth it, require a long attention span, right? Be it a conversation with someone or a book or a movie or going to like a museum or something, or like working on a project for months on end. This requires you to have patience and because it's, you know, we evolved with a certain like elongated attention span to build things, and now that's just been eviscerated, right?
In short form content.
Yeah, and it's all for this like fleeting dopaminergic rushes, right? So like you're just kind of fucking yourself, and people are not having these experiences and they're having these sort of ersatz, like you say, the quick content format. And it's not the same. It's not able to replace something like that. And I know I'm sounding like a fucking boomer, but I think the mental health, you know, data is, people are really paradoxical when it comes to mental health, right? Because they're constantly saying, "Oh, we have a mental health crisis. But when you talk to them about, there's a lot of modernity, you know, facets of modernity that are contributing to the mental health crisis. Younger people will be like, "Shut up, boomer! Like, why don't you get with the new time?" And it's like, I thought you were all about. We're talking about like you wanted to talk about mental health, and now we're talking about it, and you're saying, "Well, don't take my treats away, and my phone and the things that I need to get through the day." But anyway, I'm yapping here.
No, it's all good. I think it's I think it's a worldview that like a lot of people sort of gravitate towards and appreciate and share. So like, yeah, and I think this kind of like honesty and sort of tongue-in-cheek sort of Black Mirror up against these sort of archetypes and personalities is like what sort of comes across so well about the record. You know, I think it's just something that people can grab onto pretty easily. The record itself, I asked for some questions from one of our homies, and they told me that they read that it's about a bunch of different personalities. It's about these different characters in a prison. Is that true?
Yeah.
That's
yeah,
fantastic.
no, that was my so I was going down a lot of like prison. There's like prison YouTube, right? So I was going down like prison YouTube rabbit holes and reading about, and like just crime in general. Like I was having a lot of like fixations on like modern crime families and cartels and other intelligence agencies and all that. And so there's just all this stuff that I was reading and watching at the time kind of fed into like what I was writing about. And I did a ton of research on like just something that really interests me, which was solitary confinement, which to me just seemed like absolute torture. Like,
yeah,
and something that we deploy a ton in the U.S. I don't know about the U.K. I'm sure you guys do it as well, but
it does a bit.
It's been flagged by the UN, right, as essentially human rights issue, because we'll keep people in America. We'll keep people in solitary confinement for like years, which is essentially you're depriving people. And I loved that as a metaphor for our country because we're so individualistic, right? We love that about, we are the cowboys. We do whatever we want. We have our freedoms. We have our suburban lawns that alienate us from everyone. And the solitary confinement just seems like the very visceral, like extreme end of that alienation and like individuality, right? That you're literally cut off from everyone. There's only you, and that in a way is like this profound torture. I don't know. That's like what I felt as like a literary device, right?
Yeah.
Um,
No, I think it's a fantastic like device. It lets you sort of harness all these individuals and their darkest sort of moments and desires and thoughts, and like really sort of bring about something that's fantastic, like in spite of all the darkness. It's one of the things I love about the record so much, about how it's something you could play to, like, I could put it on. My mum comes around, I could stick it on, and she wouldn't know like that it's as dark as it would, or she wouldn't like tell me to put it off, because she'd be like, "This guy's voice is fucking fantastic. This
oh,
guy's got
thank
a
you.
phenomenal voice, by the way."
Nice.
You know, that was I wasn't sure what your talking voice was until you just spoke. Obviously, just then this is the first time we're actually speaking, and I was like, "Oh, there it is. There's the fucking voice."
Oh, nice.
Like,
yeah.
it's not like you could have come in and be like, "Hey guys, I'm you're
Yeah.
just doing
Well,
you're not like a voice actor. Like, how did you when did you start singing? Like, where did that sort of come
mean,
to?
I think honestly, my voice is just from. You can listen to my voice from even like 10 years ago, and it's very. It was much. I think it's just like years of drinking and bad and bad choices, and just like I chew a lot of nicotine gum, which you're
Right.
not supposed to chew for more than like a few weeks, and I think that has just fucked my voice up. Hopefully, I don't have any like
Any like nodules and
health care.
shit?
Yeah. Knock on wood. But anyway, I never really liked my voice. I always felt it was kind of fucked. And
You just needed to find the way to apply it, and you have.
Exactly. Like for needle play, I was doing the majority of writing, and even the lyrics. I was always really interested in writing like lyrics, but I was never confident in my vocals in any capacity, whether it was screaming or singing. So I always sort of outsourced that to someone else. And so even in needle play, I was just playing guitar. I was writing most of the vocals and the lyrics, but I never actually performed it myself because I just hated my voice. I just thought it was like too abrasive. But then for this project, I don't know, I started doing that sort of like almost Buffalo Bill style at first, right? Like in the very early drafts of this project, it was very, people brought up Buffalo Bill. They'll say that it's like, Buffalo Bill core. And that is exactly like what I was going for at the beginning. And then I think as I got more comfortable, it sort of started off as a gimmick, right? Like an extreme vocal style that didn't necessarily match the instrumentals. But then as I got more comfortable with that gimmicky style, I started actually trying to sing. And then I had friends who were vocalists, and they were sort of coaching me on like what exercises to do, and a lot of like practicing in my car, shit like that.
Nice,
So,
looking like a lunatic at stoplights, shit like that.
Oh yeah, screaming too.
Yeah.
I'll do the full with the windows down. I don't give a shit. It's just like, yeah, the screaming is the stuff that really, because there's no technique. It's just like, it is as if I scream the way I scream on the record. I scream as if I'm in traffic and like you
Yes.
almost kill me. Like that's just my angry scream. There's no
good.
like technique. I'm not using my diaphragm. I can barely speak after shows sometimes. Like I have to figure out how to do it in a way that's not going to destroy, because we haven't gone on any long tours yet, but
Yeah.
if we do, there's going to be a problem.
You're gonna be you're gonna be part man, part honey at a certain point. Like,
Oh, yeah,
honey
yeah.
and ginger, whatever it is.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Oh man, that's what I was going to ask you actually. Yeah, like about shows. Like, how do you get? Because I mean, the screaming is very like a small part of it. It's mostly this, this sort of like drawl, this sort of like swagger, and does that stuff sort of is there still like a strain there, or do you find that that's not as bad?
I'm sorry. So you're saying like in live?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's I think what's tough is that I am not a professional vocalist by any stretch of the imagination. And so my pitch control is garbage. I sing off key. But one thing that's helped is I got in-ear monitors. That's really helped me for shows.
Nice.
That allows me to like control my pitch better, but I can't do it with like muscle memory or anything. Yeah, like I'll go to sing live and they'll just be like spit in my throat. And I'm like,
Yeah.
and like shit like that. So it's a lot of, I have to do a lot of practice
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah. I know how that is.
But I think what the one thing about live performances, because I used to play in like grindcore, like metal adjacent, like much more intense, heavier, distorted, high energy shows for the last like 15 years, is that like I can bring the energy. So even if I'm not singing totally in key or something, or I fuck up, or I like choke on my own spit or something, it kind of adds to the experience, right?
Yeah.
You're
It's
seeing a
definitely
guy,
part and parcel.
you're seeing a man in a bathrobe and Adidas flip flops kind of lose his mind in front of you, so you're not going to be like, I think that like E sharp was
Yeah.
E sharp. I think E sharp's actually just F. This shows
Yeah.
my music theory
Like,
knowledge.
oh, this is part of the character. This is the part of the character. It's part of the honesty. It's, you know, it's actually more creative to attack it with passion over technique. If you think about it, you know. It's
Yeah, exactly.
He's a genius.
And we can just you know, claim that it's all part of the show, that I'm intent. It is true, like, and it's called crippling alcoholism, so people assume you're like fucked up on stage. So if you're missing your cues,
yeah, you're not the Brady Bunch.
stumbling,
Like, it's not called that.
yeah, no. I mean, we try to play tight, but yeah, we can always just lean on that and just say it's performance art. Trying to seem like fucked up, yeah. But
so when somebody said that to me about like about the record with the sort of the concept of having these different people and these different characters, when you sort of like then listen to the record again, it's sort of that really sort of opens up and you go, oh my god, yeah, that's actually totally the case. Like it feels like in the first track, like I'll Pay More, like that track feels like you're kind of like introducing these characters of the concept of them, like you're sort of introducing. It doesn't feel like. And then you go from all these different sort of crazy characters. Like you have, obviously Mob Dad is definitely a Mob Dad.
yeah,
like Lipstick with No Lips feels like this sort of like heartbroken, mistreated like addict. And then Otessa, there's like a trauma victim in there, and like Sav is definitely like a Hannibal Lecter type kind of thing going on. Like there's a featherweight kid. Obviously, you called him Jake. Was that somebody off? Was that off one of the prison documentaries, or was that just a name that came to you?
Jake is a combination of two people I know at my own boxing gym, which is
Right.
in South Boston, and they're these two guys that neither of them are named Jake for, you know. I want to like throw them under the bus,
Yeah.
but they both. I kind of blended them into like one guy because they're both featherweight fighters, so they're tiny, and they'll fucking kill you. They're just dirty. And like one of the guys, he just keeps going to jail because he can't stop fighting people. And he's just like
Just a
telling me,
complete recidivist.
and I won't see him for like months, and he'll come back because he'll it's for like a street fight, right? And he'll keep coming back, and he's like, dude, they push you. He's like, they keep pushing me. I'm like, you need to not go out.
Yeah.
This is just like a real problem. And he's nasty at fighting, so he'll have people trying to be like, you know, because he's a little guy and he's got a mouth, so they don't know he's really good at fighting, and basically fights like 8 hours, trains like 8 hours a day. So these people who are like, who the fuck is this kid? And they'll start shit with him, and he just really hurts them and immediately gets arrested. And yeah, he just spends the next 3 months in holding, and hopefully he can get some kind of self-defense, you know. like hopefully he has a good lawyer, but it's just this. He's just so fascinating. And then the other guy, he's like, he had the addiction stuff where he's this weird kind of duality where he's never really happy unless he's doing drugs or he's fighting or training for fighting to just like the nth degree. And he just is such an extreme person that he should have been born in the like medieval era. He would be perfect.
Put to work.
Yeah.
Like go do some pillaging.
Yeah. He just can't live like a normal life. Yeah. And so I kind of blended those guys and wrote a little backstory for Jake.
That's
but
cool.
No, neither of them are Jake.
Nah, I guess that's a good thing. I wanted to ask you about obviously like Rough Sleepers. That's like obviously like that's got a homeless aspect, but there's like a bit at the end where you do these like these little verses about little topics, and then the last topics is dogs.
Yeah,
it's like they were wolves, they were strong, they were good, they protected their herds from the beast of this earth. Our dogs, like. I love that you just like, well, that's what homeless people love, dogs, right? Is that what?
Yeah.
Where was that coming from? Like,
no, it was more like this is going to seem a bit far-fetched, but it was more like very simple, normie infatuation with dogs. Like, go on Facebook and go to like a dog lovers like account.
Yeah.
And what you'll see is the people who are they're so immeasurably fucked up, and their dog is the one thing like that is preventing them from going over the edge, right? And it's like that's just like sort of something for that character, and like it's everything that the dog represents. You hate humanity because you've been so traumatized by people, your own family. In the case of the character in Rough Sleepers, and so you idolize something like a dog that loves you and will never hurt you and is incapable of the complexity to be immoral, right? Like people will say all the time, like, "Oh, dogs are innocent." It's because they're stupid and they don't have the complexity to fuck you over. All they know is like,
they might eat a couch, but it's not because they're a fucking evil genius. It's because they're a fucking idiot.
Exactly, but people love that. There's a simplicity and a beauty in that, and so there's also something like I think people idolize like man's relationship with dogs historically as being like a part of their herd and at a simpler time when it was just, you take care of these. I don't know. There was something going on with that in the literary thing.
No, I love it. I love it.
And yeah.
Nah, fantastic. So obviously, outside the sort of the obvious themes, like there's definitely a lot of mention of religion on the record. Like that's definitely a recurring theme. Is that something that is that just part of you and it just comes out like your sort of disdain or like relationship with it, or is that something that you sort of did sort of by accident?
So I mean, a lot of the stuff this band is very like kind of Americana. There's a big folk. All the characters are American, and just trying to make sense of this very strange, country that we live in. And you can't talk about that without talking about religion. I mean, you really can't talk about any country without talking about religion. But there's a certain religiosity in America and a unique religiosity where, in some ways, we are extremely without religion in a communal sense, and in other ways, we're like fanatically religious. And just sort of religion. I mean, it depends on the character, right? It depends on each character. Like talks about. So, like Satan is the one, right?
Yeah.
This character, because of their sexuality, was, and their parents' like strict religious upbringing, or or strict religiosity was totally rejected by their family, right? And so they developed this hatred of all things Christian. And then, of course, they go into this sort of cult later on in life. But the irony is that it's just a different type of religion, right? They're still looking for the same kind of escape, and
There's still it's still idolizing something. It's still this, they're just replacing one for one. Sort of thing.
They're just replacing one thing, and the only reason they choose this sort of like satanic cult is almost to just get back at to defy this upbringing that they have a ton of resentment about, and it leads them down some like dark routes, and they get anyway. So that song is not supposed. I'm not one of those. I'm not a Satanist or a person who. That song, I worried about that song because it was like, do people think like we're trying to the whole? If I ever release another album like this, which hopefully I will, we are working on the third. I don't think I'm going to do any singles because I think the album only makes sense as a whole thing.
Man, that makes so much sense. Like, because the first time I listened to the album, I put it on. It was the day it came out, and I was like, I only have so many hours on a Friday, right? That's when all the music drops. So I like try and listen to as much as I can. I'm like, fuck, it's an hour, and I'm like 20 minutes in, and I'm like, this is an hour, and then I get to the hour, and I'm like, this justified every fucking second of its runtime. Like, I think it's such a cohesive piece that's so massive that I wouldn't even want to take anything away. Like, I really do commend you for putting something out that's a fucking hour, and it's not like you have like these sort of diverse tracks where like this is this one and this one has to be here because this represents this. They all tread these similar themes. It's very cohesive, and it's not like you could go, oh well, you could take the ballad out or you could take the acoustic track out. Like you can't, because this thing is so sort of cohesive. It's fantastic.
Well,
what were the decisions like, or was it discussions like when the album was looking like it was going to be like coming up to an hour? Were you guys just like, fuck it, this is awesome? Like, I mean, that'd be interesting to know.
We had a ton of drafts. We probably had. I mean, so the first album that I wrote, it was kind of, again, it was still my solo project. So that I was sort of like in my own shit for a year or two. But this one, I brought on the other guys. So Jonathan, Pete, and Tyler, who we all were in Needle Play together. I brought them on. These guys are like, I mean, they're like my brothers, essentially. Like, I see them every other day. We're very much in each other's lives. They're at my wedding, all that kind of stuff. These are guys I really trust. And I brought them on after the first album got like a little bit of momentum. And then I said, do you guys want to help me write this second album? And I still probably did the majority of the songwriting, but it was very collaborative, and all three of those guys are songwriters, and they write, in addition to playing their instruments, they write all sorts of stuff, be it like electronic stuff or metal or like hip hop beats and stuff like that. So we kind of took all those influences and funneled it through this project, and we probably had like 200 different songs when we first, like around that. I think it was like 186 different. And then we went through and we were like, this song, no, it's not good enough. This one's not. And the one rule that we made was it has to have some catchy element to it, because we really wanted to like take advantage of the pop. So we basically whittled it down to our catchiest songs. And then from there, that probably was like 40. And then from there, we wanted to do a variety. And then that's when like the more album crafting was involved. And we got it down to 14. And then we cut 2 because they weren't, I don't think they were serving it. We wanted it really to be 10 songs, but we settled for 12.
Nice.
But because the two songs we cut, I don't. I think they were good, but they weren't. We'll probably revisit them in another album down the line.
Yeah, yeah, you're at a point where you've got like a huge amount of like really good material. It must be hard to cut it down, but yeah, I think you made the right choice, because that could have easily bled into like an hour and 15 minutes then. And I mean,
Oh yeah, no, and
from my position now, I probably would have been thankful for it because you'd have more music. But yeah, there's just that. There's a daunting aspect. It's like
I can
putting
send
on
you
an
the
album
drafts.
that's that.
We
Oh
did
man,
like
I'd
full.
fucking
We
love
did like
it.
full. We didn't mix or master them, but we did like
Yeah,
drafts
yeah.
of them. Yeah, I'll send
Wow.
them to you. You tell me what you think. But
Mate, for sure.
you'll probably be like, all right, this makes sense why you guys. But
Yeah.
we had. I tell you, but bringing these guys on, and I definitely want to shout out Jonathan, because Jonathan was as obsessed with this project as I was. We were on the phone when it came time for. There was about a 3 or 4 month period where we were heavily recording. We were doing a day like every other week, because that's like what we could afford. And he and I would be on the phone, and we went through so many drafts of this. We went back and we re-recorded everything except for the drums.
Right.
The drums were perfect. Danny, the drums he probably did the drums in I think 2 days on everything, and they were 100% perfect. Danny,
Fantastic.
and then he was just like, he just pieced. He just came in, did all the drums flawlessly, added like even more flair than we had like put into all the notes, and he just bounced. He's just like, all right, let me know when it's done. And because he's like a touring, he's a professional drummer. He's in a million projects, so he doesn't.
Yeah.
We can only get him for a little bit of time. I think now we want to try and get more of his time, but like for the most part, prior to this release, we had him for like a couple weekends, so we had to make use of him. And yeah, but the rest of it was like we re-recorded the synths and the guitars and the vocals. We probably went through 3 different like changing the vocals of every song, because we were like, there's a lot of different vocal styles, right? There's like the more Buffalo Bill stuff that I was talking about. There's like the bluesier stuff too, where there's kind of like a little twang in it, and then there's some more like choiry goth stuff and the spoken word. And we just had to try like a million different things, because different.
Like, yeah, and I guess you figuring out your vocal style, like as a proper, like as a singer, it must have been really good and creative, just like having all these different takes, and like you must have had a million different ways to attack the lyrics, like yeah.
Yeah, no, and we changed the lyrics up. We would like completely rewrite entire, like that song "Mob Dad" is totally different from the first iteration of it. We changed entire parts, and I think we cut parts and added something out. Like it was a very fluid process, because Jonathan and I would listen to the whole album together. We'd listen to the mixdowns, and we would be like, "Nah, it's not what we want. Like we need to redo this." And it was very stressful, actually. Because we became very obsessed with it, we're not one of those artists that have some kind of spontaneous like genius, right? We're very much like, we're like blue collar artists. We go to work with a lunch pail and just like put in 8 hours.
You just have a lunch pail of riffs.
Yeah. We just try a million different things, which I know a lot of artists don't do. They're just sort of, they have that gift where they get this like epiphany, and they're just like, yeah, I know exactly what this album's going to sound like. That was not this. This was very much like trial and error, trying all these different things, rewriting stuff, banging our heads against the wall. There was a point where we weren't even going to release it, because Jonathan and I were like, this fucking sucks. I hate how it sounds. And I think we should scrap it and redo everything. Like we should do different songs.
Damn, that would have been crazy. That would have been mad. Yeah, depriving the homies of this.
Yeah,
You're saying about the different drafts and stuff. Was Satan as the one like ever like going to be the final track on the album? Because the way that the synths open on that track are so grand and it's so brilliant. It's such a so it's just really
that was going to be the
signals
first. That was originally going to be the first track.
Yeah, it has
But
it has that grandeur like an opener or a closer. Yeah.
But I didn't want it there because the song, it was originally just called Money Song, which is I'll pay more if you let me watch, which is now the opener. I think once we like really built that song sucked when we were first. It was awful because there was no payoff. It was so boring, and like it really took a lot of rewriting to get that one. But when I heard it later on, I was like, "Oh no, this is the opener," because it was so. That song, when I heard it, like when we made the adjustments to make it kind of like what it is now, I was like, "This is the kind of it has like an evil to it."
Yeah,
And then a kind of like just deranged. That I was like, this is how I want it to start. It's like quiet, deranged build up. And then Satan we put on later on. Satan, I don't know. That's one of the songs that, because it was the first song we put out. We made a music video for it, which I like am not super into. I had never, me and my, it's like I call him my brother, but we're not actually brothers. My brother Mateo, he's like a big film buff, and he and I had been talking forever about making stuff, and we thought, all right, a good excuse is we just make like music videos for the stuff and the style. So we were trying to make like a kind of like Lynchian meets like crime video for Satan. I don't know how well we pulled that off. But
that's great. I think it's great.
The second video, which we made for Otessa, I was much more happy with that. That's like much more our style, but we had never made anything. We had no budget. You know, you get a cheap camera and some lights from Home Depot, and we were like shooting it all at Pete's house. Because Pete lives in basically New Hampshire, which is like the middle of fucking nowhere, and we can work really late and make all kinds of noise and have lights and stuff. So we shot most of it there, and we had no idea what we were doing. So it's just, I had never even used like any video editing before, so it's a learning curve for sure. And then I think this is like going to the singles thing. Like, I don't think Satan was very representative of our overall album. Like, I think it serves a purpose in the album, but I don't find it as a very, how I had envisioned Satan was like in this weird world. This would be the type of song that you hear on their radio. Right. Like it's same with Lipstick. So Lipstick and Satan, it's like these are the songs that they're hearing in their world, in this sort of fucked up like prison world that they live in. But they're like
that makes
intentionally
sense.
really poppy, like overly poppy, even more so than the other ones.
Yeah, the hooks pay off, man. Like there are so many sort of memorable vocal hooks throughout the record. I think your attention to that and your sort of editing down that from what it sounds like has really paid off, man. Because there's just so many things that get stuck in your head. The line that gets stuck in my head the most is the damage we will do is immeasurable. It's just the way that you do that line. It just it sticks in my head so hard. I'm like, I think that just needs to be on I can't wait to get that on a t-shirt. Get it on a t-shirt, dude.
Nice. Well, thank you. Yeah, and I mean, a lot of that just comes from, we just had a million different versions of that chord progression with different, I didn't put any lyrics down. It was just me doing like a, like, there's probably like, we have on our drive, I had to pay for more space because we had so many drafts, and like there's just like a million of these fucking things.
Upgrade the fucking G drive.
And then I had to upgrade twice, and then was that in the video shit? Yeah.
What's that? 100 gigs or something?
Yeah. But I mean, I also have Google Drive for like everything, but yeah, It was these fucking. I just would keep uploading it, and we'd upload like a million different Like the raw footage we had for those music videos that took up a lot too. But like,
Amazing.
yeah, again, like that's how we come up with those hooks, is that it's just trial and error, and then we listen back and we're like, I think this one has some, and then we'll kind of rework it, and then if it sticks, if you leave it for a week and you come back and you're like, all right, that's in my head, like that's an earworm.
Yeah.
That's kind of, because it's hard, man, dude. And I can tell you, like, I've been playing guitar since I was like 12. I played in a ton of fucking crazy ass metal shit, and I was teaching myself how to do all the fucking sweeps and alternate picking and stuff. I can tell you the hardest thing for me to write is those fucking vocal hooks. They're tough.
Yeah, that totally makes sense.
And a lot of people shit on it because, and it's like, okay, you try to write a hook, dude. Like, they're like, oh, hooks, that's for like mainstream artists. It's like, and if you think about it, most mainstream music now is not really that hooky. They just beat you to death with it so that it's in your head.
Yeah.
But you wouldn't
Most
remember
things Most things I hear, I don't know if there's this like epidemic of like pop songs that are just basically old pop songs, but they're not like, they're like exactly the same hook, but it's like a different thing. I hear it all the fucking time, and and I only hear the radio in a very fleeting like times, like when I'm in my car and like my phone has not got battery or signal or whatever. But fuck me, there's a real like. There's a real creative drought when it comes to pop music.
It's a sterility because like it's actually, if you're a million billion dollar like music industry algorithm fucking company, you can't rely on artistic like spontaneous epiphanies, right? You have to, or like the work of, you can't rely on people like you couldn't have like Jonathan and I working for them and saying, we need to rework everything because we don't like anything we've done for the last 6 months. They need shit that they can put it in an equation and get an output immediately and make a new TikTok, guaranteed. And so like what they do is they have these algorithms that recognize like what was previously catchy.
Yeah.
And then they just tweak it a bit so it's legally not stealing.
Yeah.
And then that they just keep putting out like stuff that you'll hear that was really catchy in the 80s, right?
Absolutely. That Take On Me, that's the bit that's at the beginning of that fucking Harry Styles song that was everywhere. It's the same bit that opens it. There's so many bits, and I'm noticing it's coming through from sort of like 90s dance music, so that there's like an inherent sort of nostalgia for people of my age that are probably like idiots that do listen to pop radio, but like they hear that and they go, oh, I like that, and they're just fucking brainless idiots getting refed things.
And they don't give a shit. They don't. They're like, "Ooh, it's like that thing from my just like gulp, They don't care.
Nah.
You could tell them, you're like, this is just ripping off this song, and they're like, great, I like that song too. But that's most people's. That's like your average person's relationship with music and any art, and it's like the like writing a new pop hook is fucking really hard, and you have to do a million different versions, and it's not going to be great. And that another thing is like, you'll hear this a lot when metal people go melodic, right? When they start doing clean vocals and they start trying to incorporate hooks, the hooks are so linear, right? There's no like real hook or vibe to it. It's like, because they're just using that metal like music theory approach, and it's very different. It's very like an emotional, I can't even explain it. It's just, you kind of have to develop an intuition for it, and it's really tough. And there was a ton of times where we would have a chorus or a verse, and I'd be like, you know what, this hook is ass. We need to change it because it's not gonna be good. And sometimes it will hit you, like that song Featherweight. That kind of hit me when I was in the car. And I grabbed my phone and I was like, like doing a voicemail into that, or a voice memo. And then I went home and like tried to turn it into a song. But that's really rare. I'd feel like most of the time it's actually Just like
workshop.
you got to
Workshop.
workshop it, brute force it, have multiple people input. Like Jonathan is great because I'll show him stuff and he'll just be like, no. He'll just be like, we're not doing that, which is great because we're honest with each other. Like I don't want a guy, a partner who's writing with me to gas me up because we're going to put this out and then other people are going to think it's shit. And I don't want to waste people's time. Like,
yeah, I mean that way of producing stuff is definitely sort of the best way. It's funny because again, like with like comedians, right? Say like they'll have like a great joke, like they'll put together and like they're all working towards an hour, and they'll have a joke, but they'll work that joke out and they'll tell it 100 different times and 100 different venues till it's there. And that's kind of the same way that you sort of whittle down the best version of these songs. That they'll work on it, and it'll be completely different by the end, but it's the same sort of energy and like the sort of the optimized version of that idea, which is like really cool to see. That's the sort of the way that you sort of work on things.
And just like the comedian example that you said, like when you're at their show, it feels like they're just coming up with it there. Like it feels like they just had that. It's so fluid and organic that. But they know every little detail of the slight like accents of certain words and everything in the pause, how long they pause for, and they know every little thing. But it sounds just like you're having a conversation with somebody. And so that's the kind of exact same thing with like writing hooks, is that it might sound like somebody just came up with this or they're coming up with it on the spot, which is what you want. But in reality, it took fucking tons and tons of iterations to get down. Yeah.
Another thing I wanted to ask you about the album is like one of the things that I like about it the most is sort of there's obviously it's very intense and it's very emotionally charged, but there's also like just it feels like an immense amount of like restraint on the record, right? You have these sort of moments where it sort of swells, and I said this when we talked about it, but it's like my best example. It's like moments away from like becoming a meth song. Like it's just from just going completely crazy. And you guys, I think it's the sort of the teasing and like the foreshadowing of like potential like sort of like violence and things like that, but like not actually delivering it is in itself almost better. And like having that restraint as a band, like I mean from you know, knowing now that you played in lots of heavy bands and stuff like that, there must have been times like when you were potentially writing stuff and you go, well, energetically like the next logical step here is to go fucking mental and go into a breakdown or something like that. Like so how did that sort of like ethos come about, like, and sort of like play into like how you wrote stuff? Like where did that sort of idea come from, or is that something that's always been sort of at the center of what you want to do with this band?
Yeah, I mean, with the restraint, I mean, just restraint in general, I think as I get older is something I'm like gravitating towards, because this is entirely subjective, but it just seems more authentic, right? Because let me give you an example. Like, if you're in like a psychotic episode, right? You almost think of like a meth song, and there's truth to that. Like, there's psychotic episodes where it's just dissonance and heavy, like violent, primitive sort of like pounding bass and guitar. I just saw Meth live, actually. We played with them, and it's like stepping into someone's psychotic episode. It's fucking crazy. But there's other type of psychosis that's like a more subtle one, where you don't realize that you're insane. You think everything's great and you're vibing and going along with it, but from the outside in, you're doing horrible things, right? And so like
a
that's
BTK.
Yeah, exactly.
Like just living forever and like and being like
exactly. Or like not even that, or just like the crazy shit that we all are sort of this like the general like more civilian psychosis, right? Like the things in our own lives that when you look at it for a moment, you have a moment of retrospective, you're like, it's fucking crazy that we do, this, that we like if you ever drive to work or something, you're like, we're all these like fucking 8 people in these little cage on wheels, and we're all going to the
Yeah.
same place, and like, what are we doing? What are we? And none of us have fucking any power, and we're just all
Yeah.
like, there's a kind of psychosis that seems like, I don't know, more normal, more restrained, but it's like it's like a normalized psychosis where, and so it's like there's a kind of subtlety in that, right? And in the first album, we had those moments. And there's a couple moments like that, like in the beginning of that song "Red Looks Good on Him." It comes in with like a very crazy, like bravado-y, abrasive shit, and then in the middle of "Rough Sleepers," there's some of that too. And I think there's some in like we sprinkle a little bit of that more intense shit in there,
Yeah.
but for the most
Yeah.
part, the kind of crazy stuff is like laid back, which is like for me more relatable.
Yeah, yeah, and it's the saying the very intense and sort of crazy lyrics. Some of the more sort of biting moments, like saying it from a relaxed position, almost adds more menace. Like it's having that comfort with the darkness, I guess, is still as dangerous, like as anything.
Yeah, for
like,
sure. And we're definitely not at anywhere near the first band or the first art. Like, yeah, there's a lot of movies I like that are like that, and books that read like that and that. But that's just something that I've kind of been gravitating towards as I get older. Where when I was younger, it was like fucking crazy grindcore, just have the most crazy and turn everything up, and everything is distorted and everything, and sort of moving away from that, but still keeping that crazy, just like displaying it in a different way.
Yeah.
But
no, I love it. I think it's fantastic. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about influences on the record. You were kind enough to send me one of the playlists with some pretty interesting stuff on there. You said the stuff, the corridos. Is that, how do you say that?
Corridos.
Corridos.
yeah. You got to roll your R. So yeah, that was something I got really into, where it's like, these are like the most. So it's like, I don't know if you know anything about like the current state of Mexico right now, but it is
kind of. But yeah,
there's a lot of political. I mean, there are essentially cartels that are now like militarized, right? So it's like there's in a lot of sections of Mexico, it's almost like a war zone, right? Where you have warring cartels. There's two big ones that are kind of at war with each other. They're at war with American intelligence. Also, American intelligence may or may not be, buddy with some of them, but that's another not to be conspiracy theory. And then the Mexican government, and so, but there's this whole culture of like cartel narcos. The narco corridos is and there are these folk songs which are just regular corridos from like just historically Mexican folk songs that are always catchy and very jovial and lively, but now all the lyrics are describing this war that's going on, and I don't know. I mean, a lot of the cartels are fucking brutal. They're more. It's. I don't want to say they're more or less brutal, because I mean it's like my country's military is pretty fucking brutal. Same with yours historically.
Yeah, we're not great historically.
It's a specific. There's a specific like modern technology and very like medieval sort of torture techniques, and it just is very like. There's just like so much emotion in these songs about these really kind of horrific events, but they're listening to them on the surface. If you don't speak any Spanish, you're like, oh, sounds like a jovial kind of lively song. But when you dig deeper, you realize they're describing this very brutal like political scenario. And there is something, I just like, it's something that's very, I'm not trying to condemn that at all. I mean, sorry, not condemn or condone.
Condone.
Yeah, I'm not trying to condone that, and I'm not. Again, like nothing against like the artists who make that, because they're not necessarily involved in any of this either. It's just like they're expressing their world, right? Like,
Yeah.
so I'm not condemning that either. I'm just saying it's just very interesting. It's something
Yeah.
I like the idea of sort of having these pop oriented, like, and the songs are very catchy. Like, these guys know how to write hooks. Like, they're unbelievable songwriters, like, and guitar players. Like, they're
Yes, I
phenomenal
noticed
musicians.
that.
Yeah.
The guitar players are like
Yeah.
absolutely off their tits, and this music is it's so brilliant. There's such a contrast. Like, you know, as for me, somebody that doesn't speak Spanish, like I could listen to that and I can imagine like I'm on holiday, I'm sat out drinking some drinks in the sun, everything's
Yeah.
beautiful, and it's just like playing, but
Yeah.
like, I have no idea the sort of the subtext there, or well, not even subtext, but it's quite good. It's quite interesting, really, because the only real sort of like barrier or is really it's like education. It's just me not knowing the language, which in itself is quite funny and sort of like ironic as to why I don't understand that. Like, it's very cool.
Yeah. So that's something, and I mean that's something that like we write a lot of stuff that's American focused, and we try to focus on like, just because that's what we know, that's the people in our lives right now, and there's a lot of like content or to draw from, inspiration to draw from, and we have like very unique relationships with violence and military and religion and all that stuff. So it's conveying these things that are very fucked up in a more presentable, poppy, like radio friendly way, like in a similar way that those, the narco artists do. Not that, like, again, not that it's at all. They're very different scenarios and stuff, but it's something that's always been really interesting to me. And same with like even something like trap. Like, if you ever listen to trap, because the UK has a ton of trap too. You guys invented the sort of
We've got grime. Grime is like
I know grime.
The sort of thing you're thinking of, yeah.
Like the Dizzy Rascal type. Yeah. But you guys do. There's like a UK trap. It's we stole it from you guys. A lot of the New York guys stole the UK beat, because it's like it's very like triplet-y kind of. But we do
I don't know
better.
shit about that. Sorry. Yeah, I'm sure you know.
I'm just kidding.
Fucking nah. Sometimes I think like some of the UK hip hop is absolutely dire, but some of it's fucking very, very sick. It's not very often. There's a show over here in the UK called like the Rap Game UK, which is kind of like it's a rap game. It's not game. It's like a reality TV show, but like they actually like have people on. It's kind of done from a position of people that actually like grime, and it's all like grime artists, and they sort of like they get voted out and stuff. But I know the idea of it sounds awful, like an American Idol type thing, but like the way that it's actually done is very, very authentic, and you get these like really good people and these collaborators, and it's a really, really interesting thing to watch.
I'll
it's
check it out.
Sick, man. You should check it out. There's about 3 or 4 seasons of it on.
Nice.
You can probably watch it on BBC iPlayer. I don't know how you get that.
Yeah. Where are you from in the UK, by the way?
I'm from Portsmouth, which is basically, if you looked at the map of England and you went as south as you can go on the coast, right on the coast. I'm on the coast. If you go completely in the middle, right down the south, like I'm basically there.
Okay. Nice. So very South England.
Yeah. Like London is like sort of 2 hours away north.
2 hours north. Okay, cool.
Yeah, sort of.
Yeah, because
maybe
I've been to
London.
I've only been north of London. I've been in London and up, but I've never been to the south.
It's nice. You get
that's where Adele's
I love having
from,
the
right?
sea.
Isn't Adele
I don't know
from?
where she's from. I have no idea. I just imagined that she was from London. I'm sure she's from London. I think she's like
maybe she is.
East London or something like that. Probably.
Nice.
I might be wrong.
Nice. That's all I like. Yeah. Adele's my hero. You know. Yeah.
Mate, she's got a phenomenal voice.
She does.
Maybe
she's crazy.
Maybe there could be an Adele cover on a deluxe. Maybe.
Dude, if Adele, I've been DMing her every day. She doesn't respond, so I don't know what's up. Yeah, I hope she's okay.
Mate,
I was like,
Is she doing like Vegas thing now, or is that over? She was doing like a residency there, wasn't she? I don't know if that was.
Oh, really?
Over.
Yeah, that's the move. Just hang out in Vegas.
That's the ultimate move.
Play it what, like $300,000 a month or something, like, or more. Yeah, that's
the
rules.
fucking shit.
Yeah, that's the fucking artist's dream right there. Yeah.
I'm talking to Vegas. What's the plans for the what does the sort of the calendar for the band look like? And what sort of what's the sort of tour plans? Obviously everybody's like ask them when they're coming to the UK, and I'm like, well, obviously people want to they want to do that, but it's not it's not realistic. But like, what are your what are you thinking as a band? Like, are you?
Well, the reality is that we're still a very small band. We don't have a label. Everything's DIY. If we want to do even something like advertising, right, we got to pay for that. We got to, no one's going to foot the bill for anything. So, and none of us are fucking loaded. So like we all have we have like normal day jobs, like at least Pete and I do. And then really the other three guys are like music teachers, right? So there's not a ton, it's not like we're fucking rolling in it. So we probably have to exhaust like US touring before we make it out there, but who knows? I mean, if we don't need to make a ton of money. We just can't lose a ton of money, if that makes sense. Like we're not trying to make it big, but I would love to come out to the UK. I actually have family in Scotland, so I'd love to go to Scotland as well.
Nice.
But also like, I don't know, like London, Manchester, Birmingham.
Yeah. Birmingham. Big up Steve from Birmingham.
Yeah.
One of our good homies.
The only Birmingham thing I know is like, this is like some famous, like a viral thing. The guy's like, Birmingham is a fucking shithole. I live in a fucking shithole. Just a guy in an apartment in Birmingham. So I was like, I gotta check Birmingham out. Yeah, I'll send it to you. Yeah. Yeah, Mateo showed it to me. I was like, this rules. Mateo's quite the like Anglophile. He loves all things UK.
Nice, like a peep show fan. I know. I was.
Oh yeah. We all are. Yeah.
It blew my mind to understand that like American people dug a peep show. I think that's fantastic.
Because it's honest.
I love it.
It is. It's true. It's like the real. We love that shit. Everyone does because it's just like.
The thought of like Mark Corrigan's voice playing in an American household is something that actually is really humorous. Yeah. So I quite like that.
You know what? I love David Mitchell so much. I watch, what the fuck is that show? Would I Lie to You? The show.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, fantastic. I watched that. I bought the like Amazon Brit box for a month so I could binge all it. I just love his. I love his. Like, I can't even do his voice, but like the smug posh.
Yeah, if you've watched a bunch of that, then you probably would have seen Bob Mortimer on there at some point.
Yes,
he has some of the best stories. He's the fucking man. He's like, I think he's one of the few funniest human beings in existence. He's so sort of so weird and out there and brilliant. Love him.
Bob Mortimer's great. There's a bunch of guys on there that are great. Like really. Like it's a very unique human. Not all Americans have the like attention span because like take what is Bob Mortimer, right? That's his name.
Yeah.
He does like long stories, right, about his childhood that are like maybe fabricated or maybe not, but they're like almost like Joycean in there. Like they're very absurd, and a lot of Americans don't have the patience for that. They're like, all right, get enough with this fucking. Where's the punchline? We love Family Guy, where it's just like joke. But stuff like Peep Show, it's just so fucking brutal. The honesty is so brutal that we can't look away.
Oh man, if you do like British comedy, there's a show that I think is one of the best things that has ever been made on British TV, and it's I don't know if it's really crossed the pond at all, but it's called People Just Do Nothing.
I haven't seen it. No, I'll have to check it out.
You have to check it out. I think you would love it. It's basically it's shot in a similar way. So like, I'm a massive Trailer Park Boys fan. That's like my favorite thing ever, bro. It's the fucking best, and it's kind of in that same way where it's like it's shot like a documentary, but it's not. But it's a very honest comedy. So if you just sort of think about Trailer Park Boys and the way that show operates, and the sort of the interview sections and things like that, but it's about these guys that do a pirate radio station, and they're like garage MCs, and they're just like the worst, funniest, loveliest people.
Yeah. I saw a trailer for that. Yeah, it's almost
they did a
like
movie.
Is it almost like Ali G type?
Oh yeah, it's basically that. It like they are so. They're so real and so ridiculous. Like everybody in that show, you know, somebody like that. And there was, I want to say 4 seasons of it. I think it's one of the best things ever. I think you'd really enjoy it.
What is it? People you know do nothing.
People just do nothing.
People
they
just do nothing. Yeah, I'll check it out.
They did a movie that came out a few years ago, and that's all right. But yeah, the show's phenomenal.
Nice. I'll check it out.
Oh man. This has been fantastic. Thank you for all your time, bro. I think
absolutely.
One other question I wanted to ask is what's the merch situation? We love merch. Everybody that listens to the podcast, we all have a secret obsession with merch. We fucking love it. So, what's anything working there?
So if you go to our website, we have a shirt. It's like a long sleeve.
Fuck yeah.
And so if anyone wants to check that out, and that website is like directly hooked up to our whatever fucking Stripe, I forget what it's called, account. So we get most of that, but we, again, like this is all self-funded. Luckily, so for vinyl and
I've got
CDs,
a load of shirts down here. I've printed some really nice long sleeves. I've still got a box full of fucking loads of them. I know I'm still in the hole. I barely broke even. I know it's like
it's tough, and it's like, do you put it into merch? Do you put it into like tour or show budget stuff? There's like gear we need to get.
People don't mind pre-orders. When people love bands, they don't mind pre-orders. Like,
true.
If you can, get a design together.
Yeah, we have. So we do have a company. It's our my friend Joey. He lives down in Virginia. He's in a band called Terror Cell. I don't know if you know them. They're really good.
Yeah.
Fucking sick, awesome band.
Hell yeah.
So he has a small indie label, and he actually did a CD run of the first album. So I was talking with him. He's got vinyl for that first album, so you can order it on our Bandcamp. And then we were actually just talking today about the pre-order because we had pitched it to a bunch of labels. That's what we were told to do after we had a little buzz with the Padded Rooms release. So we did not hear back from them. So we're like, all right,
fucking that's cool.
Yeah. But I mean, the thing is most labels aren't gonna touch you if you've already released your album. They'd be like, why the fuck would we do? They want that pre-order money. They want like to be the only place where you can get something, and they want to. And I think like our content, our name. Right, the stuff, it makes it kind of, a lot of people don't want anything to do with us, right? Like I was talking to, I won't say anything, but I was talking to someone who's like works for this company, and he was like, it would be great to work with you, but we just can't be associated with your name. And I was just like, all right, well, I guess the conversation ends here because I can't do anything about that. The name is what it is, and now it's on everything, so it's a little too late. Even things like online, you get like kind of banned for having anything that's like
it's probably not great
addiction.
For the algorithm, is it?
No, it's not. It's not. We just had a meeting with a guy who's like helping us do some more like targeted ads. We're trying to like grow online, because I think if you grow enough online and you can get enough local people coming to your shows, start to branch out, then you should be going on tour. But a lot of bands, I think, they jump to that shit right away. They put all their money on, and they go on these tours, and they're touring for no one. And then they come back with no job, and they're in a ton of debt. So it's like, I can't fuck myself like that. I have a wife, I have a job, like.
Before they know it, they're a character on the next Crippling Alcoholism album.
Exactly. Before they know it, they're in solitary confinement because they had to like rob a jewelry store or something to make ends meet. So, trying to not do that, take heed. But it's tough. We will definitely, it's just the more people that I can get involved to like foot the bill. We have a million like design ideas and stuff like that, but it's just, we have to be strategic and like kind of financially like frugal right now.
Yeah. No,
and
makes total sense.
And it's like, oh God, like we're trying to do like more content stuff, right? We have like these little trailers and like they're like ambient drone trailers, and we're talking with people who are in that world. They're like professional, like content people that we just know through acquaintances and stuff. And they're sort of saying this like drone subtle stuff, you need to capture people in like 3 seconds, they say, or like 2 seconds.
Yeah, it's like it needs to all be the hooks. It needs to all be the hooks.
It needs to just be the hooks immediately, and then you need to have the lyrics up, and it needs to be human faces, and people will, and they sent like examples of like stuff that does it really well, and it'll be like, and again, like this has to be for fucking children or something, because it's like a girl who's like, what's that? You're trying to find the hit summer or the hit track of the summer or whatever. Like it's right here. And then it goes into like just the most ass song you've ever heard. But it's like, then that just 100,000 likes. Everyone loves it. Or just like people who are like, this is for anyone who's had like bad things happen to them. And then just like, again, it's just like a new metal song, or just, and I'm like, I'm not doing that. I can't
maybe
do it.
There's an angle for you to do that, and you do that sort of content, but the person doing it is clearly under duress. Like they're clearly held at gunpoint. Like that's like,
I gotta hire you. I gotta get you on for PR. I like these ideas. Yeah. That's a thing.
It's the hit song, like, and they're like smiling, crying.
Yeah. That's great.
You've got their family like locked up.
Yeah, that's good. I don't know how much the algorithm's gonna like that when they see guns and violence and stuff. But it will be.
Yeah, you have to have the little. Yeah, maybe you have to have the little Nerf cap. You have like an orange cap on the end of the gun for the algorithm, so they know it's it's fake.
Yeah, or just the shadow of a gun. Maybe you can get away with that, like a vague.
Oh yeah, I mean, if they're crying enough, it'll really portray it. Like, if they're clearly under,
that's a good idea.
They're tied. They're tied. If their feet are tied.
Yeah, that's good. I think that's an untapped market of like kidnapping content. Kidnappers, kidnap TikTok. Yeah,
like that bit in that scene in like The Dark Knight where the Joker's got the guy and he's doing he takes over the news.
Oh yeah, that's a great scene. Yeah, he's like, look how crazy you made me. Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah,
I love it.
I gotta get you on for this PR. That's PR gold. You gotta utilize your skill set here. Yeah,
I think so. We'll figure out an invoice. Mate, this was so much fun, Tony. I really, really appreciate having you on, man. I appreciate you taking the time. I appreciate you being so lovely and talking so much about the album. I absolutely adore it. We talked about it at length. It's fucking fantastic, and I really, really hope there's some continued success here. I hope that I hope a label fucking picks you up, man, and you fucking kill it, because what you're doing is brilliant.
So does my bank account. Just kidding. No, I appreciate it.
I mean, I was just sort of wrapping up there, but I just think there was quite a bit of a runaway success with like Chat Pile. Like I feel like Chat Pile like really permeated. They played shows over here even. Like they seem to really.
Oh yeah, they're phenomenal, man. They're just First time I heard Chat Pile, I was just like, it was that song Dallas Beltway, or I think that's what it's called, right? Where he's talking about like, what does he say? Do you want to see what ordinary hands can do to something fragile, or something like that? Like it's very dark. He's like killed his kid and he's in the trunk. I replayed that. I was on like a 2-hour drive, and I just the whole time just hitting replay. Like I listened to that song probably like 200 times when I first just. Yeah, and I mean that's a kind of band that when people say there's no good music today, or like bands are,
Yeah.
you know, that kind of, because that is a boomer take. It's like, no,
Oh,
you're
dude,
just
for sure.
you're just lazy. You just don't want to go spend the 5 minutes it takes to find new music. And
Yeah.
also when people will say, you know, like I chat piles like super extreme, like oh, everything's been so diluted and pacified. And it's like, dude, kids these days, like the Gen Z, Gen Alpha, they're listening to insane shit. The weird kids, yes, a lot of them are listening to like fucking bullshit, but the weird Gen Z and Gen Alpha kids are listening to like insane shit that you at their age, it would be too much for you. You know what I mean? Like, because they've been so eviscerated by social media, like the hyper pop and the crazy, like, you know, electronic and like SoundCloud rap stuff that they love. Like, it fucking rules. I like a lot of that stuff. And like, Chat Pile's a good example of like, their success is really inspirational, I think, for bands like us, bands like, and a lot of bands in the scene where you're like, you can be weird and fucked up and still, you know, I mean, I'm sure they're making like a decent living, or they're touring, they're going to the UK, and they're from fucking Oklahoma. So like, they got them out of there. Yeah, it's just like, there's some hope on the horizon with bands like that. Bands like Portrayal of Guilt.
For sure. Yeah.
Even a band like
Portrayal of Guilt
Idols
played like a tiny venue in my city. Like I went to in November. It was fucking amazing. I love them. It was great.
Yeah, they're awesome. One of the most, or even a band like a big band like Idols, which I know, like, I'm not a huge Idols fan, but they're like, they have fucking balls, right? They have some, and they're playing huge venues, and like Viagra Boys. Did you ever listen to Viagra Boys?
Yeah, I've heard of them. I've listened to it a little bit, yeah.
And again, like, they're playing in like fucking big festivals and shit. And so again, like, these types of bands, they're like, there is still a market for that in a global sense. Yeah. So it's good. But yeah, no, I'd love to go. I have family in Scotland, actually, so I think I said that before. But we'll be over there in the next couple of years for sure, and I'll hit you guys up, and we'll take you guys out, because I really like I can't tell you how much that review meant to me, especially because
that's crazy. I love it.
I didn't know how the album was being perceived. I was still a little like nervous about it. We were worried about like that it was shit. And like,
I guess you were just Stockholm Syndrome by the album at that point. You'd been through so many different iterations and things of it. Like, you probably just,
I can't listen to it anymore.
Words that don't make any sense anymore. Like, you know, you say it too many times. You're probably just like, what the fuck is a potato?
Yeah, people will be like, oh, this hook, like, and they'll play it, and I'm like, if I listen to this one more time, but it's like, it really meant a lot when you guys put that.
Yeah.
It was, and say hi to Gary, right, Gary? That's your partner.
Gary's hopefully, he's hopefully listening to this in Japan. He's probably like, I don't know, looking at some cherry blossoms right now, maybe noshing up a nice ramen. I'm very jealous.
But no, he rules. I love Gary.
He's the man.
And definitely.
Thank you for being so awesome, mate. Like I say, this is the first time I've really done a podcast without him, and I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to sort of conversationally be as sound. And I think this has gone really well. This has been fucking fantastic, mate. I really appreciate you. Thank you.
Absolutely. I can't tell you again. I'm honored to be here. I love what you guys do. You guys are so fucking down to earth. You love supporting like bands that I love, and it's great. You're very tapped into the whole strata of like different. You love the underground shit, and you keep track of the more like mainstream adjacent stuff. I love that. And you don't take yourself too seriously too, which I'm sorry for, I know, like, I'm just fucking, I don't shut the fuck up sometimes.
Nah, man, this is fantastic. I was like, we'll try and keep it to an hour just because that's just, I don't know if I'm going to have enough to say, but this has been fantastic. You've been really good. I appreciate it. Like, maybe, let's get you on again at some point. Next time an album comes out, we can have another chat, or maybe we'll find some other reason to do it. Knowing now that I know, that you have sort of love for the other sort of heavier stuff. If you know, if maybe an album comes up that you're really excited about, or some sweet thing comes up that you know, any sort of really cool releases that you're interested in, maybe we could like hook up a show and you could come on and chat about them with me and Gary, like as we cover it. Like, that'd be cool.
You should have. I would recommend also. You should bring on Jonathan. He's the other guy who did the like heavy lifting and the writing of the last album with me. He also plays guitar. He's a fucking. You should hear his other shit. It's like the most insane deathcore, like extreme, brutal. Yeah, he's a good guy to have on with. You know, when you're talking about heavy bands and like stuff like that.
Fantastic.
So, anyway,
no, I appreciate it.
Yeah.
All right, that was a lovely fucking podcast. Thank you for listening, everybody. We love you lots. You might have been looking at us now because we've now got a YouTube. So thank you for looking at us. We love you lots. I think I'll see you next week. I don't know if he's coming back. I might have to do another podcast on my own. I'm getting very scared about that. Anyway, love you lots. Cheers. Bye-bye.